We're good? Okay. All right, well, welcome back to Work Tech. We're here at HR Tech Live. I don't do a lot of live podcasting, so this is unique for me to have all of this distraction. And I'm excited because my guest for this episode is a friend and colleague that I respect immensely, someone who's been in the industry a long time in a couple of different roles, and is currently at one of the exciting new AI startups that's disrupting everything. So this is what a better place to check in with Jeremy Roeberts. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad this worked out. So for those who don't know you, haven't gotten to know you over the years, tell the listeners who you are and who you're with, and
Awesome.
do the intro.
Yeah, so like a lot of people here, I started just as a recruiter in, I guess it was 2002. I was recruiting in healthcare, and then I did retained an executive search for a long time. I was at Korn Ferry, Future Step back in the day, and then transitioned into government contracting. I worked with Raytheon and then Honeywell. Really where I started to meet a lot of you guys and the people around the conference circuit was when I joined SourceCon as the editor in 2013 through 2016. I was the editor of SourceCon, and that was really I had led sourcing teams before that, but that was really my introduction to the community of people that have become kind of lifelong friends and colleagues, right? And so I did that from 2013 to 16, and then in 2016 I was the founding customer success person for Hiring Solved. So they had been around for a couple of years, and I joined, and then I was there for about 4.5 years until we were acquired by the Allegis Group. And then,
that's right, Allegis acquired Hiring Solved. I knew they were acquired. I couldn't remember.
Yep.
Okay.
And so so that was fun. That was the people aggregator movement, you know. So you see the remnants of that all over the floor today. And people,
it's your fault.
Someone pitched it to me like it was new today, and I just listened. You know, I was like, well, that's cool. Wow, that's a lot of data, right? Yeah. But and you match candidates to jobs. Wow, you know. So I did that, and then in 2020, I was let go from Hiring Solved post-acquisition, and so I kind of bounced around for a couple of years. I worked at Seek Out for a bit, which I loved that, and then I did some solution design work for an RPO, but then I landed as a sourcing leader at JP Morgan. So I had a team of 100 people at JP Morgan sourcing globally. So that was my biggest team in corporate recruiting, and it was a very large company. So I learned a ton, and I was there for 2.5 years. Great people, great challenges to solve, and then that role came to an end in May of this year.
Okay.
And so, as happens with sourcing, we centralize, then decentralize, then we centralize, and then we decentralize. So it was decentralized and moved to regional leads, and so I moved on, and this is a really weird market that we're in now, and so I started looking. I was given a 45-day notice, which was great, and in about 10 days I realized, there are not a lot of jobs, and some really dynamic people I have a lot of respect for don't have jobs right now, and I don't really know that I want to go compete with them and apply for jobs. And so I created an LLC, and I picked up 3 good clients, and spent the summer consulting. And one of my clients, they wanted me to go and vet all of the AI interviewing solutions on the market. And, and I did that for about 2.5 months, and I wrapped up that project and then made my recommendation, and then I turned around and asked my favorite for a job. And so here I am. I'm back in tech.
What a great story. I have so many questions, but before I go there, I just want to say there are actually very few people who can go. Everybody thinks that they can go from the practitioner side to the vendor side. And they're two very different environments. And I did that. I was, for a decade I was on the recruiting side and built a company into an RPO, and it was recruiting. And when the tech company tapped me on the shoulder and said, "We'd like you to come work," I thought, oh, they must want me to work with their clients. And they said, no, we want you to sell. And it worked for me. And I hired a lot of people from the practitioner side, and it didn't work for them.
Yeah.
It worked for some. And so I have a huge amount of respect when I meet, because I know how hard it is to make that transition. That's one of the reasons I wanted you to be here. But that 2.5 months, was it like looking into the abyss and realizing everything is going to go away, or was it like looking at this opportunistic future? I feel like what a great project to evaluate all the AI tools. Like, what did you see? What did you learn? How did you feel?
It was very eye-opening, right? When you're coming from large corporations, we're large corporations right now are still trying to wrap their brains around kind of the legal aspects of what's going on, and they're dealing with legacy systems, right? So we don't realize how much, like, if you could remove all those barriers right now, we could automate most of recruiting, right? And then with AI interviewing, I mean, I listened to an interview the other day that the person stayed on the phone for 85 minutes and was laughing with her. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's gotten pretty realistic, right? So when I was doing that evaluation, I also had some searches that I was working on the side, right? And I realized, like, we're at a moment where I don't think the humans are going away at all, right? But the departments are about to completely change. And to be completely honest, I don't want to be hired into a department that hasn't gone through the change. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like,
I totally appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't, I like the practitioner side, I like the vendor side, but I'm always evaluating the exact opportunity, environment, culture, the people.
Right.
And right now I see a lot of large corporations who are, some of them have scaled back their teams and they don't want to hire because they know AI is about to change everything. And then others are looking at AI and trying to figure out how to implement it and are not actually making the organizational changes necessary. They're still trying to just, for years, if you had a sourcing tool or a recruiting tool, you would buy the sourcing tool and just give it to sourcers, and it wouldn't change their workflow. It would just be a new tool on top of their workflow. Like, everything that is being evaluated right now will completely flip the workflow.
Right.
Like, you've got to just take it apart and start over.
Wow. Yeah. So I did a talk on global trends. It was through an investor lens this morning, or the investor experience here at HR Tech. And one of the things I said to them was, look, the hype is real. The train's left the station. The cow's out of the barn. It's AI. We're going there. We're not going there as fast as the headlines are telling you.
No.
And it was because of a lot of what you're saying. I had these stats about transformation taking longer than everybody estimates. It's less than half of enterprises are actually using AI in more than one HR domain, whether that's recruiting or whatnot. All of the successful use cases are not across all of the categories. You've got areas in recruitment that do well, areas where it's sluggish adoption, for myriad reasons. But the hype is real in the sense that that's where we're headed, and it's happening faster. But it just doesn't happen to every category in talent acquisition or HR all at once, all at the same time. And I think rightfully so, most of the practitioners or buyers there's a fear factor there because of these changes. And also the path to value isn't clear yet for a lot of these solutions. So that's my soapbox. But where did you go? You said you picked your favorite.
Tenzo.
Yeah,
Tenzo
I knew that.
AI.
I just wanted you to do
I'm
the
at
reveal.
Tenzo AI.
Yeah. And so that was your favorite when you did that evaluation. Why?
So, okay, it's really interesting. If you walk around, and I actually don't think very many people are demoing their AI here, which I find that fascinating. There are some videos of their AI.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk of their AI, but there aren't a lot of people actually demoing it.
Okay.
And that's interesting. So I think that it's not really hard to create a compelling demo. You know, Glenn Cathy at Recruiting Innovation Summit last year, or earlier this year, he created a chat with ChatGPT,
Yeah.
like a recruiter conversation, right, to show everybody how easy it was and how realistic it was, right?
Yeah.
So you can create something that demos well. What I realized when you get underneath all of these, what's happening with the data, how configurable is it, how transparent is it, are you going to be able to get it through the AI use councils, the chief legal officer, right, the different compliance groups. So that to me, like, once you get past the cool factor and you're looking underneath the hood, that was what was most important to me, right? And so with Tenzo, you know, Mason did his bachelor's and master's in computer science at Stanford, and then his PhD research was in debiasing ML algorithms.
Okay.
You know, and so every question I asked him, like, can you show me how you did that? Oh yeah, and you did one button click and it just breaks it down for you. So if you were to get audited, you know, it's what I feel is the safest.
So everything's
I saw.
explainable.
Everything's explainable. Everything's transparent. You know, we're evaluating like the old ways, like all of the hype right now in terms of using AI to evaluate candidates, right? It's typically AI looking at, or ML, not even AI, but looking at a resume that is incomplete,
Yep.
right? The beauty of an AI interview is once they apply, you immediately do an AI interview. Every spoken word is used to evaluate their, you know, if there's a question about a skill, you allow them the opportunity to completely articulate their experience there, and then you apply a score. So you're not evaluating a person and a resume.
Right.
You're evaluating each individual skill and how they respond and describe their experience, and then adding all of that up, right? So it's just the compliance piece. It's actually, if you break it down, it's much safer than if you look. I put something on LinkedIn the other day. What has everyone scared is the black box ML from 2016, 2017 that, you know, became racist in 48 hours, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like immediately just amplified the biases of the organization. That was 2017, 2018 ML. Like the new LLM models, if built if used correctly and leveraged correctly, are not going to do that, right? Some people are still doing it the wrong way. I'm not saying just blindly trust what you see today.
Right.
But yeah, I just, once I dug in and kind of saw that difference, it was just obvious.
Yeah, and Tenzo is, we've talked about the evaluation of candidates, the interviewing of candidates. Is Tenzo finding candidates, or more focused on sifting the funnel that's coming into the organization?
We can do both.
Okay.
We have not, I mean, you know, it's not hard to have a database of 600 million and match email addresses to them. We have not done that at this point. We do. That was another thing when I was looking at Tenzo. I was like, well, what about if we've got 2 million people in our database? And he's like, oh, watch. And, you know, he showed me a sandbox where it's done, right? So we do connect to all past applicants so we can rediscover. But right now it's inbounds and then past applicants.
Right. Okay. And so, do customers look at Tenzo, or prospective customers look at Tenzo and think about this sitting on top of an ATS, or is this replacing an ATS?
No, we're not an ATS, so we integrate with anyone at this point, right? Basically, it's really for the just initial screens, and no plans to be an ATS at this point.
Right.
So
Right. And so you're integrating with the ATS. You're doing the initial screen. How far does it go? I'm asking for everyone that hasn't seen Tenzo, and I know you'll be pitching in the Pitch Fest.
Yes, Mason will.
Yeah, your founder tonight. That's the final round, and so we'll see how that goes. I've been so impressed with all the founders, and I've already been impressed by Mason Wolf, so I expect good things tonight. But for those who don't know Tenzo, how do you articulate sort of how it fits in the air quotes stack?
Yeah, so it does the AI voice or video interview.
Yep.
Typically, it's very front end of the funnel. We want to get as much context about every candidate and save that for you. While it's doing the interviews, it's creating a score. You can have it set so that if the score is at a certain threshold, we'll go ahead and schedule the next meeting.
Yep.
And that could be with a hiring manager or with a recruiter, right? So we have some organizations that, if it's a retail organization, for example, they could get set up with the store manager immediately, right?
Okay.
So we could skip recruiting. One thing you didn't ask about that is interesting. I think the assumption is it's really good for a high volume, and it is good for a high volume.
Okay.
But I think that might be more what most leaders are willing to experiment with.
Right.
It's actually, I've created some interviews and seen some really good interviews with candidates, making $200,000 to $300,000. You know what I'm saying? Like it is good enough.
I think the demo you did for me, I think my perspective is based on that demo. It was more knowledge work. We didn't really look at high volume. So that one of the things I said today was we've got all these use cases that have come out of high volume. That's a well-trodden path at this point. Very quickly, it's not that big of a leap to go to knowledge work. You don't do it the same way. You don't treat candidates the same way. You don't have the same process, but the underlying foundation of experience assessment, you're assessing something different, but moving through the process is the same. So that's an interesting thing, that if you have the ability to demonstrate both. I think that is where the platforms are. We've already seen a couple of acquisitions in high volume. I think the ability to own high volume and then apply the same approach, AI forward approach in knowledge work, is what's going to set, it's going to create the platforms of the future in the recruitment environment. So what does the roadmap look like?
I should disclose that I've only been with Tenzo for 6 weeks, right?
Okay.
Right? And I think we're incredibly focused on doing what we do right now, the AI voice and video interviewing, extremely well.
Yeah.
But I think it would be naive to not just say that once you're working with a client and you understand that client and you have all of their context, there's so many things that you can do for a client in terms of automating different parts of the process. I mean, you've got OpenAI creating a consulting division. You know what I'm saying? So once we're working with a client and we understand their workflow, they will ask us to do things, and for an engineer who can create something like this, those are simple asks oftentimes, right? And so I've heard a lot of yeses to things that are not advertised.
Right.
But I don't know exactly where that will lead the roadmap in the future. I don't think I've been there long enough to speak for our founders on that yet.
No, that's fair. I appreciate that. But it does strike me that given where you're focused right now, there's such rich data coming through, both the data itself, who they are, what they do, their score, but also then the behavior, what the candidate's behavior was in an interview, what you learn about the candidate outside of the job they're being considered for, and then also the organization's action that was taken. That creates almost, that's a great place to be if I were thinking about CRM and re-engaging and running campaigns.
Absolutely.
And how do I, you could do personalization at such mass scale. You could have 150 candidates for the same engineering position all get a different message about the same job based on how they interacted in the last 6 months with the organization.
Oh, and just organizing check-in calls with different employees already. You know, hey, how are things going? What do you like? What do you not like? What would you like to do in the future? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can imagine all the different things that can be done with this type of platform.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great. That's great. So, what's your role there?
Yeah. So, I love it. I mean, it is really almost identical to when I entered Hiring Solve. So we have two very smart founders. One is CTO, and then one is a very effective sales-oriented CEO with an engineering background. You know? And so the founders are really solid. We've got a salesperson, and then we've got a group of engineers. And if you can imagine, you know, what a practitioner would do, so I'm in the middle of all of that. And what I say is, if it takes an engineer away from engineering and a salesperson away from selling, I should probably be doing it.
Oh, okay.
And so my title is Founding Customer Success Lead, and that includes industry partnerships, relations. You know, if there's a marketing message that goes out, I'm helping with that. Pre-sales, engineering. So just basically anything that kind of an industry person would be able to contribute to there in the middle.
It sounds like a little bit of product marketing, given, you know, you don't have tons of chefs in the kitchen right now, and so, you know, how do we message around this? You know, what's the real value for the organization? That's an exciting.
And just articulating client needs for the engineers, and then reviewing the solution, and then taking them back, right? So everything in between clients and our engineering and sales is kind of where I'm playing.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of my favorite times was when we were scaling Brass Ring from like 0 to 50 million. And there was a long haul where it was just, I was running global sales, and we had a head of engineering. And we made all those decisions.
Yeah, you know? No, and it's like, that's the thing that's so much fun. You know, and it's important when you're in that environment that, like, you're surrounded with really smart people, but they're humble and curious, you know, and that when you ask why, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like they ask the right questions, they want to do the right thing, and they're, you know, they want to know what works, right? So there's humility there with the knowledge, so it's great.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Jeremy, this was great. It was what I was hoping to learn, you know, hear more about your story. I love the trajectory of your career and what you've learned and how you're applying it at Tenzo, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about Tenzo. There's no conflict here. I do not cast a vote in the Pitch Fest. So
that's right.
But it'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see the presentation later today. And thank you for doing this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thanks for what you do. It's awesome to have somebody that digs so deep into our space. So it's like, I was telling Mason when I first introduced you, I was like, it's like if HR Tech had a tech crunch, it would be George.
Oh,
you know,
that's cool.
he's the guy that goes deep on the actual, you know, funding side, not just the tech. So.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that. I appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody who's listening, anybody who's watching, wherever you are. And I want to thank HR Tech and our Work-Defined Network for creating this opportunity. Thanks all. Until next time.
Thank you. Thanks, man.